What's up guys, welcome to the channel and welcome to the vlog. If you guys are new here, my name is Jeffrey and I make videos on my 2017 Dodge Challenger RT along with, I'm not sure if you can see it back there, the 2000 Mustang project car, which I'm turning into a rally car, a safari build for the channel. So if you're interested in any of these type of videos, check out my channel. Hopefully you guys will subscribe. But with that out of the way, I'm going to talk about a very interesting topic today, something that I've seen a lot on a lot of different forums, just talking about when you buy the V8 over the V6, how much do you actually use the V8 power versus using the V6 power? And I thought that'd be a good topic for me to kind of dive into today. So let's rewind some time back a couple months when I was first looking to buy my car. I was just like most of you guys out there looking at the V6 versus the V8, trying to figure out which one do I really want to buy. Do I want to buy the RT? Mine has the 5.7 liter V8 in it. Also thought about getting the Scat Pack or the SRT with a 6.4 liter V8. Then also thought about getting the V6 with a 3.6 liter V6, the Pentastar engine. I looked at all three of those options and kind of weighed out, well, how much will I really use the V8 versus the V6, especially when you get to the RT. The RT has 375 horsepower versus the V6 with 305 horsepower. There's a lot of pros and cons, you know, just depending on what you really need, what's your kind of what is the best fit for your life. But for me, getting the V8 was the better option. But even to rewind time back a little bit further back in the past, before I had this, I actually had a Jeep Wrangler, but even before that, I had a V6 Camaro. It was a 2012. So I did come from the V6, I guess, vein, or I've had a V6 before. That was my first rear-wheel drive car, and I knew that I wanted a rear-wheel drive and a manual car. But in that case, I chose to get motorcycles driving by. But in that case, I chose to get a V6 versus getting the V8. So when it came down to this vehicle, I was a little bit more swayed to get a V8 this time around, just because I knew the first time I didn't really get the V8, but this time around I figured, hey, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right. So with that in mind, when I got this vehicle, I chose to get the V8 over the V6. Now let me be honest with you guys, most of the time when I'm just driving to and from work, you know, when you're not stepping into it, you're not really using all that much power. You're not, you know, you're really not going to be using that much difference of a power. I would say honestly, probably maybe around 20% of the time, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, where I'm actually using the V8 power versus using the V6, where I'm like, yes, I'm so happy this is a V8. But in my opinion, that's still a pretty good amount of time. That's usually, you know, like if I'm just late at night, just cruising, going out on back roads, just having some fun, that's when I really am happy that I got the V8 over the V6. But I think the biggest thing that a lot of people underestimate is the sound. The sound that the V8 makes over the V6, there really isn't that much of a comparison. Yes, I know you can do the Flowmaster exhaust and do a lot of different stuff. You can do a ton of stuff to make your car sound better. But in my opinion, you can't really, there's no replacement for displacement, and having the V8 versus the V6, it just sounds better in my personal opinion. I don't really like the way the Pentastar engine sounds when it's when it has an exhaust or straight pipe. I don't really like the way it sounds. Some other cars driving by, I think that was an Infiniti Q, whatever. But anyways, long story short, even before I had this, I had a Jeep Wrangler. I was looking at getting another Jeep Wrangler, a newer one with the same engine, the 3.6 liter Pentastar. Even those exhaust systems, they don't really sound that great. I mean, I know you can get a catback exhaust to make it sound a little bit deeper, but it doesn't have the same sound as a V8. And for me, having the V8 sound all the time, especially when you start it up in the morning, that alone is worth it. But yeah, though, driving to and from work, you know, I don't really notice that much of a difference. You know, especially when you're not getting on it, you're just kind of just driving normally, you really don't notice that big of a difference. But it is nice to have that extra just boost when you really want it. And I can say though, honestly though, even though you say that, you know, the V6 only has, you know, it has 305 horsepower versus the 375, you're just like, oh, well, that's not that big of a difference. The real big thing is the torque. This thing has, with the 5.7 liter, it has over 400 pound-feet of torque. And that's something you can't really imagine until you're in it versus the V6. And that's one thing that I feel that the V8 has, you know, definitely over the V6 is obviously the torque and the horsepower, but you really feel that torque. I mean, but besides from that, the one thing I will say I kind of dislike about the Challenger is that, especially, you know, this year model is that it looks very similar to the V6. Literally, you wouldn't notice the difference unless it didn't have a little RT badge. I mean, I've done a little things to my car to make it look different, but they honestly, they do look pretty much the same, which I don't really like that. You have to really get up to the scat pack to really get some more like differences within the actual like front fascia of the vehicle and like it's lowered. But you can do a lot of that stuff in the aftermarket. With that in mind, I can say I use about 20% of the time I'm using more of the V8 power versus using like the V6, you know, type of equivalent. But when I do want that extra power, I'm so happy that I do have it. And in my opinion, that's worth it. It's not gonna be the same for everyone else. I will say, you know, you have a lot of different factors: gas mileage, insurance, you know, just the cost of the vehicle, stuff like that. Yes, the V8, it did cost more than the V6. Literally, when I went to go buy this car, I literally test drove a V6 before, like right before I got into the V8. I mean, honestly, if you're gonna do that, you're gonna probably want the more expensive and the faster car, just because when you drive them back to back, you know, you're just comparing them straight up, so you're gonna really want the faster one. But the facts are the facts. I mean, in my personal opinion, I just wanted the V8 over the V6. But yeah, it's not gonna be the same for everyone. Honestly, you have to fit what fits your needs. If you're just gonna look for something that's just gonna be a cruiser, driving to and from work, you get decent gas mileage, honestly, the V6 is still a great option. And honestly, the V6, especially with the GTs, even with the Challenger or the Charger, having the all-wheel drive, you know, that's still a great option to have. And honestly, as long as it's a Mopar, it doesn't really matter. I mean, let's face it, these cars, they look great. And like I said before, the V6 versus like the RT, they look very similar. So especially even now with like the newer, especially inside the Chargers, you can get a V6 Charger that looks just like a V8 now. It has a different front fascia. So, and even inside the GT Challengers, they have like the new like Hellcat hoods on them. So like literally, they look just as good as a RT. So I mean, hey, get what you want to get. I mean, honestly, it all depends on what you can find, you know, what you're looking for, what's in your budget, what fits your needs. But for me personally, just having the V8 sound,